Okay, yeah. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to talk about why I switched back to injections. Now, I, at Christmas, switched back to multiple daily injections to control my diabetes and blood sugar after being on an insulin pump for the past 4 years. I went on to the insulin pump just before I went away to university, and that was after 7 years of being on a waiting list, waiting to be put on one, as seen by this article. Yes, I am the kind of person who went to the papers because they wouldn't give me a pump. Wait, scratch that. That makes me sound like an entitled little child. My real problem was, at that time, was there was very vague guidelines about what qualified you for an insulin pump. I kept getting the reasoning that another 2-year-old had been diagnosed and they need the pump more, which was fine the first maybe 3 times I was told it, but when you keep getting told that for years upon years, it gets kind of old and you're wondering how many 2-year-olds can there be that need a pump. And we asked, like me and my mum asked, what's the qualifications for this? What do we need to do to get a pump? Because I really wanted a pump. I was getting sick of injections at that point. And they waved me off with general things like, oh, your blood sugar isn't well enough controlled. So I tightened up control of my blood sugars. Then I was told I was too well controlled for a pump. Yeah. So we were very confused about what would qualify me for this pump. And it turns out it's because my diabetes wasn't bad enough to warrant it. Yeah, because I hadn't hospitalized myself with my condition at that point, they didn't think I deserved a pump. And we decided that was it. We were asked to speak to a paper, our local paper. I spoke to them, and it became this big story in Fermanagh, which was shared enough on the sites and talked about enough that the Belfast Telegraph, 86 miles away, picked it up, rang me up and asked me to give my version of the events for a story. And then suddenly I get a message from my mum saying I've got a pump. So that's the context behind that. And what I need you to understand is that I fought for the choice to be able to choose whether I want to go back to injections or not. I fought for the chance to try a pump and decide it wasn't for me, which 4 years later, I decided it's not what's for me right now. I may want to go back to my pump in future, which is why I still have a hold of it. It's still with the rest of my diabetes kit, just in case I need to go back to my pump later. So, I guess you're wondering why. The pump seems like a brilliant idea, and it was. A pump kind of acts closer to a pancreas, so you can adjust the background insulin you're getting, which is like what filters in at all times to keep your blood sugars steady. You can put your bolus, which is the fast-acting dose of your insulin. You can put it in over an hour, 2 hours, dual wave, square bolus, all of these things. You can front load it with more units and trail it off at the end. It was a lot of flexibility, and it was what I needed to go to university because I needed that reassurance that I could disconnect, because if a pump isn't pressed in, I think, 8 hours or something, it stops giving you insulin. At least my one did. I was on Animas and then I was moved to Medtronic because Animas shut down. Or at least stopped manufacturing to us. So there's a lot of pros, and if you want me to, leave a comment down below if you want me to make a video about the pros and cons of a pump, and I will happily make a video. The same with the pros and cons of injections. But I don't want this video to be 20 minutes long because I'm trying to make them a little shorter than they have been. 1, to save me editing, and 2, to make watching them a bit easier. So, as I said, I had a pump for 4 years, but lately it had started leaking. I was pulling it out more, like I was catching on more surfaces for some reason. I was getting really large lumps on my pump sites where the insulin could no longer push its way through that site, and it was just sitting there and creating a lump of like almost like scar tissue because of just repeated insertions into that site. And it was like insulin needing to dissolve away, and I had to move away from the sites, and honestly I was starting to run out of sites to put my insulin pump site, and it was leaking all the time, which wasn't good. Even though I was putting through less and less units of insulin at one time, it kept reading up that I was having an insulin flow alarm, like that it was being blocked by something. It started having more problems and very quickly started being more hassle than it was worth to me at that point. Now, I want to keep stressing that this is a decision I made. This is a decision that it didn't work for me right now at this moment. It's not working for me because I started working at a new job. Been there like 6 months now, and it was starting to leak and my blood sugars were being high at work, but I work in a busy store. I didn't have time to like pop off and sort out whatever it was doing. Like I didn't have time to do a set change, whereas popping off, taking an injection and coming downstairs again is a lot easier and quicker to do. So I'd actually been thinking about switching back to injections for well over 8 months at that point. Like before Christmas, I was planning to go back to injections because I was getting fed up with the pump, and I had talked to my mum about it, and she's like, whatever suits you. So I, before Christmas, sat down and wrote a pros and cons list of why I should switch back to injections. That pros and cons list was 3 pages long. So you can see I was really making this decision and making sure I was making the right decision, and I was scared of making the wrong decision before my mum made sure to let me know that there is no wrong decision. The decision's mine, and I can always change my mind later because it is my condition and I should be able to control it in a way that I see fit and that works for me. I'd become a bit lazier with my healthcare because I'd relied on the pump so much and was just like, the pump's acting up again, it's its fault. And plus I was using injections to correct my blood sugars more while I was on the pump, so it wasn't that big of a switch back. If anyone noticed that jerk, my camera just kind of slipped on its tripod and I'm too lazy to fix it, so you're getting a tilted angle now. So I made that pros and cons list, and I realised that my biggest fear was, what if I messed up being on injections? What if I accidentally kill myself? And what if I disappoint everyone around me because I give up the pump that I fought so hard for? And I realised that was my biggest fear, was disappointing everyone, because I had fought so hard for this pump and it just seemed like I was giving up. Luckily my mum talked sense into me and was like, you're not giving up on your condition, you're actually seizing control of it. Wipe those decisions away, because she realised, she knew I was serious. In a previous video about my experience in A&E with my blood sugars, that was my biggest deciding factor that I was coming off my pump. That was my biggest deciding factor that I wanted back on injections, because it scared me. That was a wake-up call for me, and I wanted back on injections to seize control back of my condition. I'm back on injections now for about 3 months. I will say my control is, I think, better than it has been in a while. That's just me talking. I don't want to look back at my graphs and see if I'm lying. But I felt a lot happier on injections. People have noticed I am happier now that I'm back on injections. And simply because I don't have to worry if my pump's leaking or not. I don't have to constantly reek of insulin. Actually, that's a lie. No, I still do. Insulin lingers. I think I made the right choice for me at this point. For me, right now, injections is the right thing. Now, don't get me wrong. It complicates a few things because with the pump, exercising was a bit easier because I could decrease my basal and decrease my insulin like just by like pressing a button. Now I have to pre-plan and like have a snack before I exercise. Now, as with any big decision in my life, I did think about this long and hard, and I even messaged my healthcare team to be like, would you support me? What tips do I need to get back into this? Because if you remember, I hadn't been on injections full time for 4 years, so it was quite a learning curve. And I decided to come off my pump onto injections at Christmas. The one time where blood sugars never go right. But for once I actually kind of managed to nail Christmas. So injections work. I had that on lock. The next day not so much, but Christmas was fine. But I kind of settled into injections again quite quickly, and I'm glad I've made that decision because it works for me right now. Don't just watch my video, and if you're on a pump, don't just be like, yep, I'm gonna change to injections again because this girl on YouTube said it worked. Speak to your healthcare provider, because this is just my opinion, this is just my experience with my condition, this is what I think works for me, and this is what I have figured out works. And I'm very different than other diabetics. Every diabetic is different from each other, and we're not carbon copy robots, which so much of society thinks we are. So if you want to make a big change, speak to your healthcare provider, look on the Diabetes UK website. I'm not endorsed by Diabetes UK, I'm just pointing you to some resources. I'll link some below in the description. If you take anything away from this, whatever you take away, is that you have a choice in how you manage things, and it's like, if you have a condition that you want to change, it's yours to change. You can seize control of it if you want and if you wish to. I had decided I wasn't comfortable with how lazy I'd gotten with my condition, with how much I just accepted that I was always going to be stressed about it, that I was always going to be a bit miserable with it, and I decided to change that, and I am a lot happier that I have done so. But that's not to say pumps are a bad thing. Pumps are brilliant for so many people. They just didn't work for me, and it's mostly unheard of that someone on a pump will switch back to injections, because geez, that's ludicrous. Why would you go from inserting a pump site once every 3 days to stabbing yourself with a needle multiple times a day? But I prefer it, and that's my condition. So thank you for watching. Make sure to click subscribe, ring the bell if you want to have notifications of when I post. Leave a comment down below on any videos you would like me to make, and I will see you all next time.